I'm glad you're joining me today because today we're finally finishing up our meditation on 2 Peter chapter 1 verse 3. We've spent quite a lot of time already looking at this verse and breaking it down into phrases, but it certainly has meant a lot to me. I've been encouraged, and I hope you too have learned a lot and that it has been encouraging and helpful to you. So today, as we look at this verse one last time, and we're going to look at the last few words, the last phrase, I hope that we will be able to come away with a big picture of what it means to meditate, that we can take God's truth as found in the Bible and take it and look at it, let it roll around in our mind, let it just get into our thinking and into our heart. Hopefully, through that, it will get into our actions and how we live. So today, as we look at the verse one last time, here's the verse leading into those last few words that we're going to focus on. His divine power has given us everything required for life and godliness through the knowledge of Him who called us by His own glory and goodness. So today we're going to focus on that last phrase, His own glory and goodness. And of course that is following right from that He has called us into that relationship, that close personal relationship by His own glory and goodness. And this is a really important phrase because it's teaching us two very important characteristics of God, that He is glorious and that He is good. So let's think through that. First of all, that it says He is calling us to Himself through or by His own glory. Now, when you really stop and think about it and are honest, we can be very self-centered in our life. I mean, that's just part of our human fallen nature. We see life from our own perspective. We see the world through our own eyes, through the way that we've grown up, through things that are good and beneficial to me. And we're not always good at seeing the world through someone else's perspective. And it seems like it comes back to a matter of almost everything in one way or another is about me. How is that going to affect me? How is that going to benefit me? But the truth of the matter is that everything really is about God, much more than it is about us. Because God is the one that created our whole world. God is the one that created each one of us, you and me, very specifically, very much as individuals. And God is the one who continues to provide for everyone in this world. And when we stop and think about that, really, God has actually created the world to show His glory, to show that He is a powerful God, that He is a loving God, and that He reaches out to every single person, and He provides for the needs of every single person. Listen to this description of God's glory from 1 Chronicles chapter 29, verse 11. Yours, Lord, is the greatness and the power and the glory and the splendor and the majesty, for everything in the heavens and on the earth belongs to you. Yours, Lord, is the kingdom, and you are exalted as head over all. And I like that last part, that God is exalted. He's lifted up. He is shown to be the head or the God, the master over everything that exists, because He is the creator. And He has designed all of this world to point back to Himself. Now, as we say that, it may sound to us like God is on a bit of an ego trip, that God is being rather arrogant and wanting everything for Himself. But notice what Peter is doing here. He isn't only saying that God calls us to Himself by His own glory, but Peter says God is calling us to Himself by His own glory and goodness. And that's the second thing we want to focus on. God not only is a God of glory, but He is also a God who is good. He is a God of goodness. Now, simply put, if we really want to just bring that down to an easy to understand way of saying it, God is good. He is right in everything He does, no matter what it is. Even when God is bringing judgment or discipline, God is still showing His character as a good God. In fact, God will never do anything that contradicts or violates any part of His character. You might want to think of it this way. Today, I have a Thai coin with me. This is a 5 baht coin. And on the front of it is a picture of the king. And if I flip it over on the back side, there's the royal emblem. Now, if I'm holding it and I'm looking at the image that has the image of the king on the front, then that doesn't change anything about the the royal emblem on the back, does it? I mean, my looking at the front has no effect to change anything on the back. Or even if I look at the side of the coin, it doesn't change anything about the back side. Now, if I flip it and I look at the royal emblem, the same thing is true. It doesn't change anything about the front. The front is still the image of the king. And that's a good description, at least a limited description, to try to understand God and the different parts of his character, because God's glory, his power, even if he is working in judgment and discipline to judge sin, to judge the wrong things we've done, it's still done out of his character that is a good and loving and gentle and merciful God. It's all part of who he is. God will never do anything that contradicts any part of his character. So, Peter is telling us that God is calling us. He is reaching out to us to draw us into that relationship because he wants it to be to his glory and for his goodness, but also ultimately for our goodness as well. That out of his goodness, he is doing what is truly best for us. And I like what is said in Psalm 145, 8 and 9. The Lord is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger, and great in faithful love. The Lord is good to everyone. His compassion rests on all he has made. So God is always a good God, but he is also always a God of glory. Now, let's step back as we finish this up. What does that mean for us as we're finishing up our time of meditation on this one verse, 2 Peter 1:3? What does that really mean for us? Well, first of all, it means that as God reaches out to us to call us to himself in that close personal relationship, he is doing it for his own glory. But it also means he is doing it out of his own goodness. He is calling us to himself, and that is truly good. And what is truly good, according to God, is what is absolutely best for us. Thank you for joining me today.